We need to talk about Shakur Stevenson, and the new target word that has been labelled against him is of course, boring. Boring! But how could one of the most talented boxers in the sport right now be just that? Well, you just need to look at his most recent performance against Artem Haraturian, sparking a revolt around the way he fights, and his inability to ultimately get the knockout or even make an exciting fight. Since then, Shakur has pretty much gone on a Twitter rampage, calling out anyone who criticises him, apart from those he considers on his side. But today I want to look at both sides of the coin, from the fighter's perspective, and of course, us fans. First up, we have to go back to the beginning and figure out how we got to this point. Shakur signed with Top Rank back in 2017 at 19 years old, having had an impressive Olympics, finishing second. From that moment you could tell Shakur was someone who does not want to lose, or maybe can't even handle the thought of losing, as seen in his post-fight interview.
I felt like the Cuban one. Much respect to him. I just don't like to lose.
You come in here, I know you wanted that gold medal, I know it's emotional, but you walk away with a silver medal, which is an incredible accomplishment. Can you take any pride in that?
No, I don't like to lose.
Rightly or unfairly, this drew comparisons immediately to Floyd Mayweather, who unfairly lost at his Olympic Games, while both were terrific counterpunchers and defensive boxers. But from this point, Stevenson really developed well and quickly under Top Rank in featherweight and super featherweight divisions, and by the age of 24, he became a world champion in just his 13th fight. However, because he was in the lighter divisions compared to the other young American stars, Teofimo Lopez, Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney and Tank Davis, who were being labelled as the so-called Four Princes. And at the time, Shakur was left out this conversation. And you can't help but feel there was some bitterness that the media didn't consider him among them. But it was after winning his first world title in 2019 things started to really develop for him, as his move up to the super featherweight division put him a step closer to the so-called clashes with the princes. And here Shakur really started to make a name for himself, putting on a dominating performance against Jamel Herring before going on to unify and completely outboxing the power-punching Oscar Valdez in a masterclass 12 rounds. It was a stylistic matchup that absolutely brought the best out of Stevenson, with many considering him a real threat to the other four princes at this point. However, things started to take a turn, as in his next fight, Shakur Stevenson missed weight against Robson Conceição, being stripped of his WBC and WBO titles. Nevertheless, he still went on and put on another convincing display.
I don't think that I can get to this weight. I did everything in my power, and they was right there with me for some of it, so they got to actually see the weight cut process. But they agreed with me, and they told me I shouldn't put my health at risk trying to do something that really couldn't be done.
You know, so I think that he mentally checked out of making the weight, and then once he knew that what it was going to take, even though it was going to take 2 hours or whatever, I think he was just like, no, I'm good. I don't need these belts anyway. I'm gonna move up to 135. You can't stop me from being great tomorrow night. And if anything, me trying to lose more weight is only gonna not allow me to perform the way I can. So I think it was, I think he had checked out of 130. And I think that, you know, there's really not much competition for him at 130 to begin with.
It was clear the move up to lightweight would be next, as he aimed to become a 3-weight world champion, while potentially getting one of the super fights with the Big Four, or even the likes of Lomachenko. And with him being the WBC super featherweight champion, and Devin Haney moving up to 140 pounds, the WBC ordered Isaac Cruz to face Stevenson in a lightweight title eliminator, which Cruz refused to enter negotiations. Likewise with his fellow Mexican William Zepeda, and even the next highest ranked contender George Kambosos Jr. chose not to take this fight either. Finally, it was the unknown Yoshino who was up next, putting on arguably one of his best performances to date against the Japanese lightweight. However, among boxing fans, no one really knew who he was, and the criticism about him taking a step down an opponent started to appear. And I believe it was here things started to change with the relationship with Top Rank and Bob Arum, as they couldn't seem to get a big fight over the line. And you can't help but think Shakur's training and close friend and pound-for-pound star Terence Crawford was also maybe whispering in his ear. You can't help but feel there's some influence from that side, as even he grew bitter over Top Rank's inability to get in big fights. Yet, when he became a free agent, gained legendary status after beating Errol Spence Jr. without the company that had helped to build him up until that point. And especially as Crawford bigs up Shakur as one of the best talents, you can no doubt imagine this was getting into the ego of Shakur Stevenson.
That boy's special. That boy's special. You know what I mean? One of a kind, you know what I mean? He adapt to every fighter. And then once he adapted to you, it's a long night.
With Devin Haney, as I mentioned, now moved up to the 140-pound division, the vacant WBC belt was on the line, and negotiations with Frank Martin took place. Once again, Top Rank failed to get it over the line, as Frank demanded a 50-50 split. As much as he blamed Martin, in Shakur's eyes, Top Rank failed to get it over the line as Frank demanded a 50-50 split, and the frustrations with Shakur getting a big fight started to appear. Instead, Top Rank managed to get De Los Santos, another hard-hitting southpaw counterpuncher, for the WBC vacant title. And there was actually high expectations around this show, as he headlined a Thursday night boxing special as the Formula 1 was in Vegas that week. There was much promise that this could be a firefight, and in fact, it was probably one of the worst fights we've seen in recent memory, with both fighters only landing 105 total punches through 12 rounds, the fewest in a title fight in CompuBox's 38-year history. After the fight, Shakur blamed a hand injury for his lack of output, which is understandable.
You got a lot of bad flack too because your last fight, it didn't go the way you wanted it to go. You came out with the victory, but a lot of people felt like it was not entertaining. They felt like it wasn't enough action. That last fight, people like to bring up a lot. Every time you tweet, every time you say something, people like to bring up the last fight.
Keep bringing it up. Truthfully, with that, how I feel is like, when you got a fighter that's coming off a bad performance, right? And this is like in the history of boxing. Everybody is licking their chops. Everybody is like, sign me up for this dude. Like, he's trash. Like, anybody that have a bad performance, everybody wants to fight him. Why is it different with me? Like, what is the difference when it come down to me? Why is it still hard to get these fighters in the ring? It should not be hard to get them in the ring if I'm coming off of a bad performance. I'm not that good. I don't have no power. What else they say? I run the whole time. If all of these things are the truth, why not get in the ring with me? Put out performances, and then now they want to talk about one performance. Cool, I went in there with one hand against a good fighter.
But it's only natural for boxing fans and critics to compare him with others in the division and critique him, particularly Tank Davis, who also generally has quite a low output, however always gets the knockout, while Shakur can't. And this leads to his most recent fight with Artem, which was also the last fight on his contract with Top Rank, with other boxing promoters no doubt keeping an eye on what he would produce. And it's safe to say the performance once again wasn't up to the standards of what most boxing fans want to see.
He's in a space that I hear, I heard Eddie Hearn say the other day he would like to sign him. It seems like he'll be heavily courted after whatever happens with this fight.
But the problem is he won't be.
Why do you say that?
Because I talked to Eddie, and Eddie said, I ain't going to pay him the money you guys pay him. I don't think Al Heyman is looking to add any more fighters. So Shakur is between a rock and a hard place. And I mean, he's a very, very good fighter, and we've loved promoting him. But again, I really encourage him to go out in free agency and look at other possibilities.
As Bob Arum said himself, Shakur is Shakur. And that is the point I want to make. Shakur has never been, and probably never will be, someone who knocks people out like Tank Davis. Unfortunately for fans in the sport of boxing, guys who are willing to get into a fight or get knockouts are always going to be the ones that draw the most attention. But the issue we have as fans is when we hear contradictions. When you hear stuff like Shakur talking about how he wants blood, only for the fight to be a stinker, you need to accept the heat and responsibility for your performance.
How do you predict your fight with Artem? Artem 2, you're going, man, July 6th.
I want blood. But hopefully he tough. He could take what's coming, because I'm going straight at him.
But to defend Shakur Stevenson, he's a boxing scientist, not a fighter, in the sense most people look at this sport. I am someone who loves the more intricate details of the sweet science. I've always been an admirer of Shakur's style, as boxing is to hit and not get hit. It's the name of the game, and you rarely get guys as defensively good as him. And we've seen the best of him in the past in fights against Valdez, Herring, and even Yoshino. From a boxer's perspective, it totally makes sense for him to fight the way he does with the skill set he has. For fans, it's far too conservative. When he can take more risks, he doesn't. And if you take away the entertainment aspect of this sport, it's precisely why he keeps winning, and he probably will keep winning. And personally, I think he has the capability to take more risks. However, unlike those other so-called four princes, he has never gotten the big fight, and the bitterness and defensiveness has started to come out. You just need to scroll down his Twitter page to see his spiteful words towards anyone that calls him out for his boxing performance. Like with so many fighters, their egos can't take any form of criticism unless it's people they like. For example, we saw the likes of Andre Ward and Terence Crawford trying to give Shakur advice after his fight with Artem.
Cut the rear. I heard Dre say go to the right. I went to the right, he started going left.
I said go to the right.
Bro, one of y'all said go to the right.
And cut him off with your jab. You wasn't jabbing, bro.
Yeah.
You was just following.
I was trying to get him.
Yeah, but you gotta jab your way in. Them body shots hurt me, bro.
You know, I had him at a certain time. I started picking the pace up, but it's like he just kept like.
But you wasn't letting your hands go. You was picking the pace up with your movement.
Yeah.
But your hands wasn't, you know what I mean?
It was a certain time I started throwing, boom, 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 boom. I just started touching the thing.
And then I think in the 8th or 9th he was like, let me start moving.
I was just about to say, just like
he was pump faking like he was trying to do something, but he started the first couple rounds he was sharp. Yeah. And that 3rd, 4th, 5th he started like kind of
He was solid though. No cap, he was solid at first. I'm like, damn, keep bouncing. He won't stand in one spot. He just keep bouncing.
I said that he was throwing you off with them feints. Yeah. That's why I kept telling you feint him back.
However, as much as I agree with Terence Crawford in some of his points, the difference is Bud actually gets the job done. He takes fighters out in the championship moments. He is an entertaining fighter to watch at times. Whereas Stevenson is not going to take those risks. And you can't help but feel there's that bitterness towards the other fighters in the division that get more attention, wanting to be like Mayweather. But the difference is, there was a Pretty Boy Floyd before there was a Money Mayweather. Pretty Boy Floyd was getting knockouts and putting on better, more entertaining performances before he transitioned into that more defensive first approach. And at the end of the day, Shakur is probably going to continue boxing like this. However, talking so much shit on Twitter is probably going to get him more traction, as haters are always watching. There's always going to be an element of him wanting to annoy people and rub them up the wrong way. Just look at what Ryan Garcia's done to drive so much attention to himself. However, at the same time, is this really helping his commercial value? Is it really worth making more enemies than friends, where promoters are going to lack the opportunities for him to get title shots going forward? And with Stevenson recently rejecting the new 5-fight deal worth $15 million, he's decided to bet on himself as a free agent to try and make the fights. And maybe that will be the best way going forward, to try get one-off fights with whatever promoter. But at the end of the day, as a boxing fan who loves the purest side, even I know Stevenson doesn't fight in the most fan-friendly style. He's the defensive first fighter, and until he's willing to take more risks and make more entertaining fights, he might just need to wait even longer for those big opportunities to come. This has been Jamie from Boxing Life. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Shakur Stevenson. Do you think he's made the right move being a free agent? And do you think he can beat the other top champions from 135 to 140 pounds? I'd love to know. As always guys, I'll see you in the next one.